Nalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvo Andhakaro Vai Rukarastvo Nivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today we take up the second to last step of the Nididhyasanam. 15 steps that Aparoksha Anubhuti gives us through Adi Shankara's comment, the composition by, not commentary, but composition by Adi Shankara. And so today we are going to discuss Dhyanam, the last one being Samadhi, which we will do next week. And that will complete our entire course of Nididhyasanam. So today we will look into what is Dhyanam. So let's start with the normal, generally accepted concept of what Dhyanam is, what we normally understand, what we initially understand, not the Vedantic Dhyanam, but the normal beginning Laukika Dhyanam. So we know what Dhyanam means, that please consider this, please think about this, please focus on this. This is called, in Hindi we'll say, dhyan karo, iska bhi dhyan karo. That means that please think about this. This is the normal understanding of it. So it would means dhyanam on what? So normally when you want to do some dhyanam for a devata, like Indra, Indraya Namaha. So you go into a temple and you want to do a yajna to Indra. So there you have to do a dhyanam towards Indra or Krishna. So there are two ways of doing that. One is what is called the Samkshipta Chitta, and the other one is Vistara Chitta. So this is how Dhyanam is done. Sankshipta Chitta means that you stay within the form of the Devata that you are thinking about and don't go outside the Devata. Do not think about their qualities, their associations. You just think about the Devata. Here, Swami Akhandananda points out, So for example, supposing you are doing dhyanam on Krishna, then you look at the face of Krishna, visualize the face of Krishna, his body, his form, and that you stay with that. And slowly, then as you keep on focusing on just one thing, which is Krishna, then his body also disappears. and only your thoughts are left, and in fact only finally your own conscious entity will remain. So this is the logic of dhyanam towards what is called a lakshya. Lakshya meaning something which you are targeting to. So here the target is the dhyanam towards Krishna. So this is the first type of dhyanam. The second type of dhyanam is what is called chitta vistaram. So instead of going from the form to formlessness, and this is the form where bhakti is normally used. What you do is that in the case of Krishna, you then think about the environment that Krishna is known for. That he was playing a flute, so you think about a flute. You think about the cows that he's surrounded with, the beautiful garden. So you expand the vision not just to Krishna, but all the associated things around with the Krishna. But you don't go outside the vision of Krishna. So it is still a dhyanam. It's not like you are going anywhere else. But within the confines of this lakshya, vastu, which is Krishna, you expand the vision to include all known associations by way of which you appreciate the very beauty of Krishna. So this is the second type of dhyanam, which is well accepted and to a certain extent very effective as well. So here, just a few more things before we go to the Vedantic dhyanam. So in the Sankhya Darshana, the school of thought of Sankhya, they believe in what is called Raga Upahati Dhyanam. Raga Upahati Dhyanam. What that does is that you develop a appreciation for something, like even in the case of Krishna as we saw, but you simply observe it, you do not have any desire towards it. So for example, Swami Akhandananda gives a very good example. He says, suppose you look at the beauty of the moon and you admire the moon, but this admiration of the moon is not accompanied by raga. There is no desire for it. It's not like, I wish I was there, or I wish the moon will come closer to me. No, you simply admire the confines of whatever you're looking at and just enjoy and become calm and peaceful. That's all that it is. So this is the Sankhya Darshanam. In the Yoga Darshanam, as you know, it is very much involved with ekagrata. Tatra ekagrata. Tatra means in that Vishaya, ekagrata. Ekagrata means single pointed focus. And the simpler the object is, the better. So therefore, a unwavering flame is a favorite of the yogis. Now I recall this, I think I might have told you this, that in all these things are very, very useful in one's life. It's nothing to be, ultimately we have to reject it. But for a while it becomes very useful. I remember this incident when I was working full-time for IBM in the late 60s as a hardware engineer. And then, since I wanted to go back to India, I promised my parents that I would come back one day. I decided that I would do some business management degree. I took a MBA from University of Santa Clara, and then we would go back after getting the MBA, which is what I did. But the process of working full time and also studying in the evening put a lot of weight on my mind. I remember I have never been so tense in my life as I did. And really what helped me was a yoga and pranayama course that I took at the Dianza College. This is way back in 1969, I think. Yeah. And I remember this so well that the teacher in this large hall would make us focus on a flame. And it became very useful to me. And he would also utter some words and say calm, peace, and so on. The lights were off. And he says, just think about this flame. Don't think about anything else. And I tell you, that whole experience was very helpful to me. And I calmed down. It took a while. It was not like overnight. It took several months, maybe several weeks, if not months, for me to regain my sense of balance and so on. Very useful, no doubt about it. So this is good. Then Swami Khandananda reiterates the 5 basic states of the mind. And I remember when we were doing Rudram, Swami Maheshananda also went through the same thing. So this is a very famous, I had not heard this before, but this appears to be a very well accepted delineation of the mind in 5 different ways. So let's just look at that. One is what is called kshiptam. So this is all the states of the mind. And I'll explain that in a minute. Kshiptam. The second one is nikshiptam. The third one is laya. The fourth one is ekagra. And the fifth one is niruddha. So let's briefly understand what each of them are. And the utility of doing this is that you make your mind the subject of your analysis. What am I doing at this point? And the more we can clearly segment it and classify it. Oh my mind, already we do a little bit of that. You can say my mind is very disturbed or my mind is calm. You already do some of that. But in a more finer way, to look at the state of the mind in one of these 5 segments is even more useful. What are the 5 segments? One is called kshiptam. So kshiptam means that you are thinking in no one direction, all over the place. And you can just, one thought leads to another. I remember Swami Dayanandji had given this example that in sometimes our mind is like a monkey. So what the monkey does is that it loves to play in a forest area, jumping from one tree to another. So as soon as the monkey goes from on one tree, and then if the next tree is close enough, it jumps towards that. When it's done with that, it can go to the next one or come back to the first one. It doesn't come down to the ground. It is just playing in the branches of the tree. There's a challenge for it and it enjoys it. And so, the Anandjis used to say that our mind is something like that. You think about something, it's called associative thinking. You think about gasoline prices. And then you think about the companies, how they are spoiling the environment. And from there you look upon as the Arab countries that are making a lot of money on. So your thoughts go towards Saudi Arabia. And from Saudi Arabia you think about, they don't allow their women the same degree of freedom. So like that, it all started with the local prices of the gasoline, and now you're talking about the treatment of women in Saudi Arabia. This is how the mind works. So this is what is called kshipta, all over the place. Then the next step is nikshipta. Nikshipta means somewhat controlled, where you take a topic and you simply think about that. So this is called nikshipta. Then the next one is laya. Laya means that you are completely devoid of thinking. And you don't normally do that as long as you are awake. But when you are asleep, or if you are drugged, you're under anesthesia. There the mind completely, but that's one of the states of the mind that we should be aware of. Then comes the fourth one, which is ekagra. Ekagra, and so this also could be called savikalpa samadhi, savikalpa. So the ekagrata means focus, as we were just talking about the flame. You're just focusing on one thing. And there you can talk about either the sakshipta chittam or vistara chittam, either one of them. But you are just focusing on Krishna alone in one form or the other. So this would be called ekagra. And the fifth one is called niruddha. Niruddha means there is no vritti. There is no movement of your thoughts. You are just with yourself. You have not attained the Vedantic Samadhi yet, that we will come later. But at least you are thoughtless. So this could be very close to what the yogic Samadhi is. It's niruddha chittam. So these are the 5 states. Okay, now we come to the Vedantic Dhyanam. So in the Vedantic Dhyanam, it is given in verse number 123 of the Aparoksha Anubhuti. And so I'll read the verse. Brahma eva asmiti sadvritya niralambataya sthitihi dhyana shabdena vikhyata paramananda dahini. One more time. Brahma eva asmi iti sadvritya niralambataya sthitihi dhyana shabdena vikhyata paramananda dahini. So here what it means is that the dhyanam is really neither any one of the other ones, like certainly not kshiptam, nor nikshiptam, nor laya, not ekagra, nor niruddha. What it is that there are 2 opposing sets of thoughts that you have. And before you do dhyanam through Vedanta, before you do Vedantic dhyanam, you only have one set of thoughts. One set of thoughts. Before we understand what through Shravanam and Mananam, before this whole subject matter was introduced to us, this is why the Nididhyasanam follows. It is not an independent. If you do dhyanam independently, that is not called Nididhyasanam, right? As you know it. But if you were to have an introduction to Vedanta through Atma Vidya, through Shravanam, and you also have an understanding of it, not just words, but all the meaning of it also is somewhat understood. May not be completely understood, but somewhat understood. If you do that, then instead of one set of thoughts, you have two sets of thoughts. So let's go over that. Before the introduction to Vedanta, you have only one set of thoughts. And what are those one set of thoughts? I am a human being. I'm a limited person. I was born at a certain time, and I am now getting older, and I have diseases, physical diseases. I have emotional issues. This whole set of thoughts having to do with this is who I am. I am a martyaha. I am subject to death. I am limited. I'm trying to eke out a little bit of sukham from this life. This is the one set of thoughts that you have. Everybody has this. Somewhat more, somewhat less, but that doesn't matter. The general character and quality of the thoughts is a variation on this one theme. Right? So this is what I would call one set of thoughts. After an understanding of Vedanta, I'm introduced to another set of thoughts. Another set of thoughts. And this is the very nature of Brahman. Nature of Brahman. Nature of the Atma. And what is that? What it is I am self-existing. Swayambhuhu. Swayam bhavatiti swayambhuhu. I am self-jyotihi. I am the one that lights up the whole world. The world doesn't light me up, but I, the conscious entity, lights it up. Aham ajaha. This conscious entity has no form, and so it is incapable of being born. And because, like space, it has no form, nothing kills it. I am pure. Even the impurity of ignorance cannot touch me. I even know my ignorance. So it's not as the ignorance is opposing me, but I know what I know. I also know what I don't know. I'm untouched by everything. So you have, I'm not going into all the aspects of it and for this particular purpose. But the second set of thoughts are completely different and require as much visiting as the first set of thoughts that I'm very used to visiting. I'm indulging in them all the time. I haven't learned how to indulge in the second set of thoughts. This is where the help of the Shastra comes in. But once I am introduced, and once I am able to actually now become wise enough and strong enough to think about it through mananam, and I look at what is it that I need to really appreciate about myself, this is the second set of thoughts. So having said that, having talked about the two sets of thoughts, one is aham parichinna. I am very limited. I'm basically not very limited, I'm basically limited. All my thoughts about life are because I'm basically limited. This is the parichinnatvam. The second set of thoughts is aham aparichinnat. Aham aparichinna. I'm the total space, not a room space. And not just leave it at that, but what are the implications of it? How? What is the effect of it? If I am able to visit those details and comfortably visit them, how to do that is called dharana. This is Vedantic dharana. So the Vedantic dharana is not the elimination of thoughts. Why? Why not elimination of thoughts? Because that elimination of thoughts is just a palliative. It is symptomatic. It is the elimination of thoughts. All it does is that I'm in pain and you go to a pharmacist and says, can you please give me a painkiller? What the pain is for, what is it due to, you don't understand. You just want to fix it now. So you take some kind of an aspirin. But if it keeps coming up, which it will, if there is some kind of a disease, samsara is a disease, and until I can understand the nature of the disease, and maybe the nature of the disease is that cannot be cured. But that's not the case, and Vedanta says, no, it's just an external disease. Samsaritvam is an external disease. Remove it completely. Then I have to understand what is the disease, how am I supposed to get rid of it, so that I can regain my own natural health. And so that's those attempts to visit the second set of thoughts is what dhyanam is, Vedantic dhyanam. So now we can summarize it by again reading this one verse. Number 123, it says, Brahma eva asmiti sadvritya. By this satvritti, not the asatvritti. Asatvritti is aham samsari. Sadvritti is aham Brahma eva. Only I am really nothing but Brahman. As the very essence of Paramatma. Niralambataya. Niralambataya means, alambanam means a support. So, if I am a samsari, it is because I need something and I am unable to get it. That's what samsara is. I am dependent. I need a support. But for Brahmasmi iti, there is no support necessary. Swayam siddha, swayam jyoti. So niralambataya sthiti. He says, dhyana shabdena vikhyata. That is what is called dhyana shabda. That is the word dhyanam. Vikhyata means well known amongst the wise people of Vedanta. It's not something which is a secret, not something which is new. This is exactly what the Shastra is saying. That I am Brahma alone, that is the dhyanam that I should be doing, I should be learning, I should be focusing, I should be getting better at it. This is what I need to do. Paramananda Daini. Paramananda means the most joyful, the ultimate joy. You cannot beat it. Brahmavid eva apnoti param, as Swamiji had unfolded. So this is the practice, you might call it up to this point as a practice of dhyana. Up to now it is still practice. So when you are learning to ride a bike, if you're almost there, but you still have to pay attention. But once you know how to ride a bike well, there's no practice. It is very natural. So that is the samadhi. But up until dhyanam, these steps require certain practicing. So that is what the Vedantic dhyanam is. Okay, so with that, we switch over to the Bhagavad Gita. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rutra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha Padakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidussura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. All right. So we'll do verse number 39 of the second chapter today. Esha te bihita sankhye buddhiryoge tvimam shrunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. Esha te abhita sankhye buddhi yoge tu imam shrunu buddhya yukta yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. So the meaning of this verse is, up to now I have talked about Sankhya, Sankhya Buddhi. Now please listen to yoga from me. Esha means up here, what have I done? Te abhita sankhye. I have talked to you. Te abhita. I have talked to you about Sankhya. Buddhir yoge tu imam shrunu. Now listen to yoga from me. Buddhi yoga. You can call it Buddhi yoga. You can call yoga Buddhi or Buddhi yoga. It doesn't matter. Either one have slightly different meaning but very close to each other. Basically saying, up to now we did Sankhya Buddhi. Now we do Yoga Buddhi. Then the second line says, Buddhya yuktaha yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi. By this Yoga Buddhi, really both, but because he is now going to be talking about something new, which is Yoga Buddhi, so he says, Buddhya yuktaha yaya, by being endowed with which karma bandham prahasyasi. All of the things that are tying you down and making you into a limited person, all those strings that are holding you will be cut. You'll become free. It's like, somebody who's when these people commit a crime or something. So this is a karma bandha. Karma bandha means that they did something. And so as a result of that, they said, arrest that guy. So this is what happens. You put some kind of a chain behind their back and their hands cannot go anywhere. Or you put chains on their legs. And so now you have chains that are holding the person back. This is what is called karma bandha. But so in a way, exactly this is our situation. We should not be just thinking about this, oh, I'm okay because have not committed any crime and nobody's going to bind me like this. We are already bound, my dear. Already bound. I'm bound to being in this body, at this place, at this time. I can't fly away anywhere. And I am subject to sukha dukkha. I cannot go more than 4 hours without eating. Binding. And so I cannot be free. But by knowing this yoga, all those strings that are binding you will be cut. This is what Sri Krishna is saying. So this is verse number 39. So now let us look at the introduction to this in the introduction paragraph. Nanu Veda Vinashinam Nityam Ityadina Brahma Vidaha Na Kinchit Kartavyam Asti Iti Upapadya Idanim Sarvadharmamapicha Ityadina Karma Kartavyam Iti Tvaya Punaha Karma Vidhiyate. So this is a question from Arjuna, a doubt from Arjuna. So doubt is Nanu. He says, wait, before you go any further, I have a doubt. Through your sentences like Veda Vinashinam Nityam, Veda Avinashinam Nityam, may you know the Atma which is not subject to Vinasha, not subject to destruction. Through those sentences that we just read previously. Ityadina. Ityadina means etc. Brahma Vidaha na kinchit kartavyam asti. So for nothing remains to be done for a Brahmavid, a knower of Brahma. Once you know that this is what Brahman is, haven't you? We have already gone through this. This Sarva Karma Sannyasa, there is nothing to be done. You're finished. Because our life is only incomplete as long as I feel I have to do something. Isn't it? The very thinking that I've got to do something is reflective of the fact that I am not complete, I am dependent, I need to go something, I need to become better. So, but a Brahmavid, you've already talked about it, that there is nothing to be done. So this is what he's saying. Nanu Veda Vinashinam Nityam Ityadina Brahma Vidahana Kinchit Kartavyam Asti Iti Upapadya. This has been taught. Idanim, now, Swadharma Vicha Ityadina Karma Kartavyam Iti Tvaya Punaha Karma Vidhiyate. Right? So, he had already talked about this. Verse number 31. Because he said that there is no reason for dukkha. Because even if you, even from the standpoint of your own dharma, what you need to do in this war, what are your duties, what is reasonably people expecting you to do. Swadharmam apicha avekshana vikampitum arhasi dharmat hi yudhyat shreyaha anyat kshatriyasina vidyate. You are a kshatriya. You've been trained to be a warrior. And this is what you need to do. And in fact, you follow that up by saying, please engage in this war. Right? It says that somewhere, I forget exactly where. He says, you have to fight. So now Arjuna is reminding Krishna that on one hand you are saying there is nothing to be done. On the other hand, you are saying that something needs to be done. Kartavyam. Kartavyam means what is fit to be done. Tavya pratyaya means what needs to be done. Gantavyaha means it needs to be done, to go. Karma kartavyaha, it needs to be done. So first you said nothing needs to be done. Now you're saying something needs to be done. So he says, Swadharma mapicha ityadina karma kartavyam iti tvaya punaha karma vidhiyate. Now you are praising karma. So he says, I'm now confused. I don't know which you want me to do. This is the very basic subject of the Bhagavad Gita. And a very basic subject of our life. Because the Bhagavad Gita is a mirror to our life. See, this is exactly how we should look at it. It's not something that you just read and say, yeah, nice book. It's interesting. Last night, a couple of nights ago, we had gone to a dinner meeting, and I've known this gentleman for a number of years. He's a relative of ours, and very accomplished person. He's not that old. I think he's in his early 60s, maybe 65. He's done he's a very smart person. And now for about 3-4 years ago, after retirement, he has started working for Mukesh Ambani in Mumbai, one of his very key people who is managing the whole business. He's a very accomplished person. So we met the other day, and now he knows that I'm a teacher of Vedanta and so on. And so he said, I have to tell you, I'm very excited. I have started to learn the Gita. So I says, oh, this is so wonderful. So he says there is some kind of an online course where each chapter is taken and you learn to pronounce it, and then some meanings are given, and I am very much enjoying it. So, and then he was just telling me about this. He says, I decided that in my life I've done other things, but I don't know the Gita. This is what really brought me back to my old days also. So nothing surprising that I must know the Gita. And he was asking me, he says, now we just learned the 12th chapter, can you recite it? So I said, no, I can't recite it because the only chapter that I recite by heart is 15th chapter because we do it, before eating. But I know the chapters, but I cannot recite it. So he was somewhat disappointed that here's this guy who's been a teaching of Vedanta and he cannot even recite the entire Gita. But nevertheless, what my whole point is this, that his view of the Gita is, this is another thing that I need to do. I've done a lot of different things and so on and so forth, but I don't know what Gita is, and now I will know. Second chapter says this, third chapter says this, and so on. Which is good, it's a start. There is a long way. So the whole point was that the Gita is looked upon as a kind of a book and a text. In fact, it is not just that. It is a mirror of our own life. That's what it is. When you talk about Arjuna, you really should look upon that as yourself. And if there are some instructions given, you should see that Ishvara is talking to you. And if you have any doubts, then you should be asking Ishvara, I don't understand this. So here the doubt is, on one hand, this is exactly what happens in our study. that, on one hand you say, oh, I am the Atma, there's nothing to be done. It is, just think about it is as avinashi, not born, not subject to death, and so on. And on the other hand, I have a life to live. I get hungry. I've got things to do. I'm not done yet. I still have emotions, and so on and so forth. Then how do I reconcile these two? This is the doubt. This is exactly what he's asking. And not only is he asking that, he's saying that, Krishna, you are actually asking me to go on with it. Why? I would rather just do meditation and do nothing. But you're asking me to fight. Why? This is the very basic nature of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the very basic nature of our life. This is what we need to understand. So he goes further. Yeah, very beautiful. Just 1 second. So the next one he says, Dukkha bhuishthasya karmanaha karana apekshaya karta karanam karyam cha sarvam mithya eva iti karma sarvam sanyasya tushnim avasthanam eva sukham iti chet. Beautiful. And let's understand this. He says that doing things in life is tough. Accomplishing things is very tough. As we know, things don't come easily. You have to work for it. And there are disappointments. There are all kinds of obstacles to it. This is what is called dukkha bhuishthasya karmana. Dukkha bhuishthasya karmana means of those actions that are endowed with problems. Dukkha means problems. And then you find that you are telling me that the instruments of doing, the status of a doer, what needs to be done. This is what it says, karana apekshaya, karta, karanam, karyam, sarvam mithya. All of that is just a make-believe. There's nothing, there's no substance in it. And compared to that, sarvam mithya eva iti karma sarvam sanyasya tushnim avasthanam eva sukham. He says, don't you think that giving up all of that, sitting down quietly doing meditation is the reason for sukham? I think I've told you this example many, many times before, just to remind you, because it comes back to me that it's interesting how words that had an impression and you can memorize them 50 years later. And sometimes what you heard yesterday, what you had for breakfast yesterday, you cannot remember. Funny, really. So here, I remember when Swamiji was, he took the Gita for a long time. Every day we used to have a class. This is a very important section in our learning. And I remember when he was talking about this, he gave this example. And this is exactly what this is being talked about here. In fact, Swamiji used to say, even though he was teaching us through Shankara Bhashya, but he says that in some case, Shankarananda's commentary is more detailed and more explicit. So I remember that he said that, when you have a chance to do it, please do it. And I never did because I was busy with Shankara Bhashya. But do you know this book that I have now? Oh my gosh, look at this. I'm not kidding with you. I'll explain this. I don't know if you can read this. It says Vijay Kapoor, 1981 Piercy. So in 1981, my friend who is now a Swami, at that time he was brahmachari, he was just brahmachari. So he had gotten a lot of books from India. And so I had requested him to please get this Shankarananda's commentary. And I've had this for a number of years, but it wasn't until just 4 or 5 years ago that I started reading this in more detail. Anyway, sorry to digress. But Swamiji used to say, he had enacted this scene for us. He said, picture there is Krishna and Arjuna. And Arjuna is with his hands folded, is telling Krishna, Krishna, you are my friend and benefactor, and you have been advising me that really you must think about Ishvara and just meditate. We've been saying that all my life. And I was saying, okay, maybe I'll do that later on. I'm busy, I'm learning archery. I am a part of the Pandava family. I've got protection. I'm busy. I'm doing all this. Now I find that your recommendation is right on. This is exactly what I'm going to do. I can see that all this war, etc., doesn't amount to anything. People are going to get killed. So what? Somebody wins, somebody loses, and so on. I don't want to do this. So Krishna says, okay, so what do you want to do? What do you think you should do? He says, I want to give up all this. This is exactly what he's saying. Dukkha bhushtasya karmanaha karnapekshaya karta karanam karyam cha sarvam mithya eva iti sarvam sanyasya tushnim avasthanam eva sukham iti chet. He says, giving up everything. What I want to do is to go to Rishikesh. This is what Swamiji's words were. I remember this. And I'm just going to sit in a hut and just meditate. And I will say to myself, why did I go through all this? Why didn't I do this before? This is all I need to do. I don't want money. I don't want anything. I'm happy with myself. As you have told me, and now I'm just going to do this. This is peace. Why don't I do this? Krishna said no. Arjuna said, why do you say no? What's the problem with that? Krishna says, you want me to explain what will happen if you do that? Because I can see it. Of course, he's Ishvara, he knows everything. But even if it was not Ishvara, he was a wise person, he would say, let me tell you what will happen. You may not be able to see it now, but I can predict your future. So Arjuna said, okay, so what will happen? He said, the first few days you'll be very happy. Very happy. you'll say, oh my gosh, why did I do all of this? This is so peaceful. There is Ganga, moving, and people are all singing songs. I'm also happy. I don't need to eat fancy food, just some basic dal and chawal, just rice and lentils is enough for me. And you're very happy for a few days. That'll happen. I agree with that. And then in a few days, you will say, I wonder what's going on in the war. I know I shouldn't have, I know that I left it, not I shouldn't have, but I left it. But now that I've left it, I wonder how did they fill my place? Then you will say, no, it's okay. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Then the next day you will ask somebody, I remember these were Swamiji's words. He says, you'll ask somebody, can you give me Times of India? Because I want to know what's going on in the war. It was a local newspaper. Then you will get very anxious. No one seems to know. How come you people know there's a very important war going on? And he says that your meditation will be disturbed. Why is that? Why is that? Because of vasanas, past impressions. You have been training for war, you've been thinking of war, you're active in war, and all of a sudden you just want to just do this. This is not going to happen. This is exactly the message of the Bhagavad Gita. So let's read this. Now that I've given you a kind of like a summary of what the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna was articulated by Puja Swamiji. So now let us look at it. The rest of it will become relevant to it. So that's what he's saying. Dukkha bhuishthasya karmana karana apekshaya karta karanam karyam cha sarvam mithya eva iti karma sarvam sanyasya. Giving up everything. Tushning avasthanam eva sukham. Tushning avasthanam means quiet place. That is what sukham. Iti chet. Iti chet means, this is my question. What if I think of this way? What do you think about it? So here Krishna replies, Satyam. You are right. Up to a point. This is exactly what Swamiji was saying, that for a few days you will say, yes, I should have done this a long time ago. Satyam. Okay, so now listen to this section from a technical standpoint of reading Sanskritam and so on. Satyam. Then there is a semicolon, which is not there in Sanskrit, but in the modern way we can. Satya means he pauses. Yes, I agree. But, the but starts next. Evam vidhagyanam eva aham mama ityadi samsara brahma vidvamsakam bhavati. So he says, yes, I do agree. I'm not denying the fact that evam vidhagyanam eva aham mama ityadi samsara brahma vidvamsakam bhavati. This knowledge means what? This is the Sankhya. This is the Sankhya Buddhi. What is the Sankhya Buddhi? Veda vinashinam nityam ityadina. That the Atma is ajam, amaram, avinashi, etc. This Atma, this evam vida. This knowledge itself removes the samsara. It removes it. I agree with that. Evam vida jnanam eva aham mama ityadi samsara. What kind of samsara? See, this is where I really enjoy Swami Shankaranandaji's commentary, because he is very detailed and very consistent. So here he has already put that in. Samsara of what type? Aham mama ityadi. This is samsara. Aham mama. So it means I am this body, and these are my possessions. This is my spouse, this is my children, this is my house, this is my car, this is my friends. So this is called mama. And it's an offshoot of aham. This is the samsara. So he says, I agree that this Sankhya Buddhi will remove this samsara. I agree with that. That's what he's saying. Satyam. Evam vida jnanam eva aham mama ityadi samsara brahma vidvamsakam bhavati. It really is capable of removing samsara. This is what I've been saying, and you're right about that. Tathapi. Now comes the interesting part. Tathapi means even then, tat arudha vishayam natu aruruksha vishayam iti. So this combination of arudha and aruruksha, we have already tackled in some of the previous ones, but it is so important that it is important for us to focus on this. This is the key of the very basic message of the Bhagavad Gita. Just these 2 points. Arudha vishayam natu aruruksha vishayam. He says arudha means one that has already mounted. So here the simile, if you want to give, is that of, and I think I've already talked about it. I remember these words that I've used before. So this is a repetition. But this is like learning to ride a horse. And the horse being so high, it is not easy to do. You have to figure out how to do it. But once you learn the skill, then riding a horse becomes easy. It's no problems. But until then, you're struggling. And I suppose that this simile is also because of the fact that the horse also is moving. It's not sitting down and saying, okay, sit down on me. It's just standing and he says, it's your job to mount on me. So it is moving. And if it can even hurt you. And so there is a difference between, so arudha means one who is already mounted. And aruruksha, so these are all Sanskritam, construct. I remember, I forget the exact derivation of that, but I do know the meaning. Aruruksha means desiring to mount. One is already mounted and the other one is desiring to mount. So Krishna says, yes, this knowledge will remove samsara, but this knowledge removing samsara is the subject of one who is already accomplished, who understands it very well. It is not the subject matter of somebody who is attempting to accomplish. As we said, this is what is called where praptasya praptihi. You've already known this is mine. And so, in that example that I gave, remember that about my credit card being lost. So once I know my credit card is around here in this room, I'm accomplished. I don't have to worry about that. Until then, there is an attempt. There's an attempt, and people will also advise. I remember that when this actually happened. Then my wife she said, "Do you remember where you might have left it?" And this is where I'm just telling you, your memory fails. You'll say, let's see, did I go to, I think did we have lunch out yesterday? I can't remember. Yeah, I think so. So this is attempting to know where my credit card is. And so in the case of the credit card that's already found, it has already removed my samsara. Samsara means my worry. What will happen to me if I lose my credit card? What do I have to call? Stop payments, all those kinds of things. It's a huge problem. But if I know exactly where it is, this is what is called arudha vishaya. Whereas if I am still struggling to find out, I don't know yet, then it is a different matter altogether. Krishna says, my dear Arjuna, you are right. Satyam. Tathapi, even so, not even then, I said even then, even so, evam vidagyanam eva aham mama ityadi samsara brahma vidvamsakam bhavati. Tathapi arudha vishayam na tu aruruksha vishayamiti. So he says that's a different subject altogether. Mumukshunam karma tat sannyasa marga parigyanaya karma sannyasa karma yoga yoho vishaya vibhagam suchayitum karma anusthana prakaram cha bodhayitum iti aha esha. So he says, Arjuna, the reason I am dividing it into two parts, one is Sankhya Buddhi, one is Yoga Buddhi, is that the Sankhya Buddhi is for people who have pretty much accomplished. It's interesting, I don't know how this one episode of my losing the credit card comes handy in understanding all this. So here's what I would say. So Sankhya Buddhi means that is also something to pursue, as we were talking about in the Nididhyasanam, Dhyanam. There is a certain second path that you have to pursue, that I am Mukta, Buddha, I am free, I am already all that. This is a certain path, but that needs to be pursued. So here, this is what would be called Sankhya Buddhi. So in the case of the credit card, Suppose I were to find out, which I did, that I paid through this credit card to Amazon last night. I got something from Amazon by using my credit card. Samsara is gone. That means that I have not lost it. But you know what? I still haven't found it. But that buddhi came in that it's around here somewhere. But from that point on, it is very easy. I had no worry. Where can it be? It's either in my office or it's in my closet, in my wallet. Somewhere there, no problems. I'll find it. So this is called Sankhya Buddhi. Sankhya Buddhi means that the samsara is gone, but still you have to pursue it a little bit. So this is what is called Sakshat Karana, Sakshat Aparokshat Brahma, which will happen. But the worry is gone. On the other hand, you now have to prepare for finding the lost credit card. And there is a method of doing that. My wife's suggestion, let us look at to see where we were yesterday. And she said very well, I think we have all had experiences of this, that generally speaking, if you lose a credit card somewhere on what you're purchasing, they will keep it for you. So now it's a matter of really just, looking at where was I gone, making a call to them, going there. But it can be done. It can be done. So there is a method of accomplishment that also. That is called Yoga Buddhi. See, the Yoga Buddhi means preparation. I mean, it's not exactly true because there, for Jnanam, you have to become more subtle, more mature, as we have talked about it. And it takes, this is a certain process that you have to go through. But so there, Raga Dvesha has to be well controlled. You have to be generally becoming a loving person, tolerant person. If you want to be totally loving and totally tolerant, you have to be partially loving and partially tolerant. All that has to be done. But that's a separate process. This is what Karma Yoga is all about. This is Yoga Buddhi. So, but there is a Sankhya Buddhi which is easy because you're pretty much there. Yoga Buddhi where you are still there's a lot of preparation that needs to be done. This is how you have to divide your life up. And this is how the division is given in the Bhagavad Gita right now. So therefore, we agree that just doing meditation, sitting in Rishikesh is really very nice to do. But you are not prepared for it. You're just making it as an excuse to run away from the war. Why is it an excuse? Because I can tell you that your meditation will not last. It will not be realistic. It won't be truthful. This is exactly what the Bhagavad Gita is. So the whole lesson of the Bhagavad Gita is life's preparation. I think I read this in the biography of Ramana Maharshi a long time ago, where somebody had asked him, Ramana Maharshi said, "Sir, I want to take sannyasa. And I've been attending your classes for a long time. This all makes sense to me. And I want to just give up my life and then just be with just doing this." So this is what is talked about in the biography of Ramana Maharshi. So Ramana Maharshi asked him, "Tell me about your life and your home life." So he said, "Sir, it's terrible. Um, my wife and I fight all the. I mean, I'm just making it up a little bit. My wife and I fight all the time. The children are always a problem. I don't have enough money. My job's not going well. So I don't want to give up all. I want to give up all of that. I just want to do meditation. So can you please give me Diksha and make me into a sannyasi? Ramana Maharshi said no. He says, why? Why not? He says, this is the wrong reason for you to become a sannyasi. You take care of your problems first. If you have problems, it is your responsibility. You deserve to solve, you have to solve those problems. Only reason I would give you would be, if everything is going well, people don't need you, and you feel you have to keep on doing trivial things here and there. Instead, this is much more encompassing on the goal of your life, where you are now learning and sharing it with others. If you were to come and give me that, I would have given you Diksha. But to escape problems means you're not ready yet. You please get a hold of your life. This is the essential message of the Bhagavad Gita. And in these very technical ways, this is exactly what is talked about here. So now with that background, let us read this sentence one more time. So he says, Tathapi tad arudha vishayam natu aruruksha vishayamiti. Okay, so this we have done already. Mumukshunam, for the one who wants to gain moksha, mumukshu. Karma tat sannyasa marga parikyanaya. Karma sannyasa karma yoga yoho vishaya vibhagam suchayitum. You see? So karma sannyasa means something to know, not something to do. This is called karma sannyasa. Karma sannyasa means that you give up the karmas. You give up your job. Why do you need your job? Because you need the money. Why do you need the money? Because I feel that money would be important for me in my life. As long as you feel that, you are not ready for karma sannyasa. So as we discussed earlier, the karma sannyasa would be if you feel that I've done everything that I need to. The family is well taken. If you're married, family is well taken care of. If you're not married, then things become a lot easier. If you are attending, medical college and you wanted to be a doctor, and you suddenly decide, I've met Swami Dayanand Ji, I don't want to become a doctor. I just want to study Vedanta. Well, this is what exactly happened to in our family too, to give you an idea. There you have to think about Swami Dayanand Ji interviewed me and said, I had 2 children and a job, and he says, what will happen to them? So I said, I still will come back to them. So he says, don't take sannyasa. You have to take care of them. So the teacher also has to do whether the person is capable of is the right situation for karma sannyasa. If not, so this is what he's saying. Mumukshunam tat karma sannyasa marga parigyanaya, for the knowing of the method of taking karma sannyasa, for knowing that karma sannyasa karma yoga yoho vishaya vibhagam suchayitum. Karma anusthana prakaram cha bodhayitum iti aha esha te abhihata sankhya. So here is the key thing. We can even end this class based on that. This is really, it's a further commentary on the same thing. Nothing really new. Karma and jnanam are not two alternate paths. I know as students of Vedanta, you must know this by now. I'm just reiterating it for you. This should not come as a, you probably heard that before, but I'm just giving you the context where this is being discussed. Karma is not a competitor to jnanam. Then what? Karma is a preparation for jnana. A life of karma is a method of becoming eligible for jnana. The basic method of removing the problems of samsara is jnana. That I am really free, I am not subject to problems. This is the jnana. But the issue is that I don't get it. It doesn't seem very realistic to me. If that is the case, then you need to do two things. See, this is where the teaching of Vedanta becomes very realistic. Two things. One is arurudhasya and the other one is aruruksha. Arudhasya and aruruksha. Again going back to the same thing. Your goal should be clear. That the goal is in complete independence from samsara. Possible while you are living. This should be done. This is number one. Then the question is, why don't I understand it right now? How come it is not becoming fruitful for me now? If you tell me this is the truth, what do I need to do in order to understand this fully? So the first one is Sankhya Buddhi, and the second one is Yoga Buddhi. Yoga Buddhi means what is it how should I lead my life so that I become Jivan Mukta in my life. So this is exactly what he's saying. So he says, Mumukshunam karmatat sannyasa marga parigyanaya, for knowing the knowledge of the marga, of the path, karma sannyasa karma yoga yoho vishaya vibhagam. Vishaya vibhagam means the delineation of the two subjects. The division of the two subjects. What are the two subjects? Karma sannyasa and karma yoga. Karma sannyasa is Sankhya and karma yoga is yoga, buddhi. One is Sankhya buddhi, the other one is yoga buddhi. So the yoga buddhi here means karma yoga buddhi. And then the first one is jnana yoga buddhi. different words are used. So here the word Sankhya really means, in fact, we can end the class by just looking at the definition of Sankhya. That's all the time we would have. So, anyway, to finish the sentence, karma sannyasa karma yoga yoho vishaya vibhagam suchayitum. Suchayitum means for the purpose of informing this. Tumun pratyaya means for the purpose. Suchayitum. Karma anusthana prakaram. How the karma should be done. In what manner it should be done. Prakaram. Cha bodhayitum idamah. So he says that this section from now on will first of all divide them into two clear areas. One which needs to be accomplished and the other one is how to accomplish it. Number one. And in terms of how to accomplish it, anusthana prakarum cha bodhayitum, so that you know exactly how to do the karmas. This is the reason why this verse number 39 is given. Esha, idam aha esha. Excuse me. So there I will simply explain to you the definition of Sankhya and then we can close the class. Next paragraph. Sankhye yaya tad aksharam adhigamyate iti brahmavidbhihi rishibhihi samyak khyayate pathyate iti sankhyaha paravidya taya sankhyaya tad adreshyam agrahyam ityadina pratipadyate iti sankhyam nirvishesham param brahma tasmin sankhye brahmani vishaya. Anyway, we can do that later on. But let's go back to the definition. He says Sankhye. Sankhye, so this is Vishaya Saptami. In this subject of Sankhya, so now he gives a quotation from the Shastra. Yaya tad aksharam adhigamyate, by which Paramatma, aksharam here means Paramatma, Ishvara, by which aksharam adhigamyate, by which Paramatma is known, iti, by doing this, Brahma vidbhihi rishibhihi samyak khyayate pathyate. So samyak khyayate is sankhya, and khyayate means pathyate. Pathyate means it goes into a very clear definition of what it takes. So sankhya actually means an arithmetic. So arithmetic means that you have to say that, there are so many things, and so very clear enunciation is called sankhya. That so many, this is the count, we had $100 and I gave somebody $50 and now 50 are left. This is a very clear, not saying I think I might given them some money, not like that, very clear. So the clarity of this knowledge is called, by Brahma Vidbhi and Rishibhi, by the Rishis and the knowers of Brahman, the very clear enunciation of Aksharam is called Sankhya, therefore it is called Sankhya. So it should be noted that here the Sankhya doesn't mean the opposite, another darshana It is not another school of thought, which is it is. Sankhya is a separate school of thought. They have a completely different belief. They believe that Prakriti is as important as Purusha. It is independent of Ishvara. We don't buy any of that. It is all gobbledygook. So that's called Sankhya Darshanam. This is not Sankhya Darshanam. This is within the Vedanta itself. It is called Sankhya Buddhi. And so the definition of Sankhya Buddhi, which means essentially Jnanam, is talked about in this verse. So with that, I close the class. But this is an important verse because it brings into focus the basic messages of Bhagavad Gita, where means karma means the first step towards jnana. It doesn't have to be, but if it needs to be, your preparation towards jnana. And it is not an alternate to jnanam, it is not competitor to jnanam, it is a prelude to jnanam. So this is what was talked about, and this verse actually articulates it very well. So with that, we close the class. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Well, good to see you all. Very good. So I think we will have one more class next Saturday before we go to the ashram. And it's very possible that might be our last class before we end this section and start the next one after we come back. Or it's very possible we may have one more class after we get back towards the end of May. I'll make that decision later on. But other than that, I think we are nearing a completion. And very nice. Good to have you all. I don't see any questions that I need to answer. So with that, I take your leave and we'll see you next week. Hari Om.